Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, back in the studio with the Fostex 260 Multitracker. It's a 6-input, 4-track cassette studio. This was made by Fostex in the mid-80s, and I believe this was one of their top-of-the-line 4-tracks around 1985 or so. It's a really cool machine. Most of the time, these will need a new belt. I did have to put a new belt in this machine, but that's about the only work that it needed. I found a good video on YouTube, so I'll put a link to that video in the video description of this video so you can see how to change the belt if you run across one of these. If you want to hear what this machine sounds like, check out my last video about this machine where I recorded some drums to it. Let's get a close-up view of this Fostex 260 Multitracker. Here's the Fostex 260 Multitracker. It's a nice top-down shot of this so you can see the functions and features. Make sure to check the video description. I'll put a link to the full manual for this thing that will cover more of the finer points than what I can manage in this video. To start out with, you have to get sound into the Multitracker to actually use it. So you've got 4 1/4-inch inputs on the front of the machine. Then you want to get sound out of it, so there are 2 headphone jacks, which is a nice feature. A lot of 4-tracks from this era only had 1 headphone output. This one has 2. It's also got a foot switch jack for the punch in and out function, so that's also really cool. At the top of the machine on RCA jacks, you've got connections for tape outputs from the 4 tape tracks on here, and that's really cool. That means you can use this as a recorder, and then you can play this tape back out through a different mixer and use something different. You've got a monitor mix output, which is the output from this monitor mix section here at the top of the mixer, followed by 2 line inputs, 5 and 6 right here, also on RCA jacks. Those correspond to these 2 controls here, 5 and 6, with a level and pan control each. Next, you've got a stereo output. That's your master stereo mix out right there on RCA jacks. Next to that, you've got a monitor output. That is sourced from this group of switches right here. So you can select multiple things for the monitor output. That's also mirrored on the headphone jacks on the front of the machine. You've got 2 auxiliary send outputs. These do not have a master aux send. They correspond to the levels coming from these controls on the individual channels. Next, you've got the bus input, so you can actually connect something else to this for mix down, like an effects unit or a keyboard or something, who knows. You've got controls for Dolby right here to turn the Dolby C noise reduction on or off, and the power switch. The Fostex 260 is like a miniature inline console with a monitor mix section for your 4 tracks up here, 1 through 4, with a pan control for each one. And then the main channels down here with the input trim control. These have an input or track 1 switch, so you can actually mix back the tracks through the mixer built into the 260. You've got a 2-band EQ, a high frequency band from 700 Hz to 10 kHz, and a low frequency band from 80 Hz to 1.2 kHz. You've got a pan control right here. This is switchable from the stereo mix to the individual track. Those are respective of the channel that they're on. I'll talk a little bit more about how those work here in just a second. And you've got your aux sends here that I talked about a minute ago with the outputs on the back of it, and then a record input with switches for left and right. You can select what's shown on the meters with this meter button, either the recorder when it's in the down position or the mixer when it's in the up position. The tape and transport sections right here. This is a cassette deck that runs at high speed, so it's twice the speed of a normal cassette. So it's pretty high quality. You've got a pitch control. You've got the track arming buttons right here, 1 through 4. Your transport controls, rewind, fast forward, play, record, stop. A tape counter, reset button. You can store 1 memory location, and you have auto stop that corresponds to your memory location or 0. On the transport section, to see the inputs to the 4 tracks, you press and hold the record button until it flashes green. Now you can see the levels that you're going to be sending to the 4 tape tracks on the 4-track. Getting signals onto the tape is a little bit unusual in this case. you've got a couple of ways to do that. Each of the channels has a left and right record input. These are dedicated to either track 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. So it's a little unusual how you use that. I have a tone generator connected to these first two channels so I can demonstrate that a little bit. With these switches in the mixed position, I can press the left switch here and the right switch there, and now we see the tone on our tape tracks because our meter select is in the down position and we have pressed the record button to monitor the input. If we go to channel 3 and 4 and press the left-right input, we see that the tone has duplicated to the other two tracks on the machine. That's because you only have one stereo bus for this machine. The other way to route sound from the channels to the tape tracks is with these buttons that change from either mix in the up position to track 1, 2, 3, 4 respectively. By pressing that button, it now sends the input signal of this channel to the corresponding tape track. We'll do that with 2 as well. We can see that that tone is now also on channel 2. If we press 3 and 4, there is nothing there because the tone is connected to the inputs of the first two channels and not 3 and 4. If we want to get the tone over to 3 and 4, we would return these to the mix position, return these to the mix position, and press the record input left and right button. To mix down from your 4-track cassette through this machine back through these main channels, instead of using the monitor mix section, you would press the track 1 through 4 buttons down here. That is bringing the tape tracks back through these main channels to be mixed down. Let's unarm all of these tracks and fast forward a little bit into the tape, and I'll demonstrate just playback through this machine. Now our 4 tracks are playing back through these main channels instead of the monitor mix section so that we can EQ them and balance them to the final stereo output, which also has a level control over here, if I didn't mention that already. The Fostex 260 Multitracker is a pretty cool vintage 4-track cassette recorder. I really like this thing. Obviously they're very reliable since the only thing this one needed was a new belt, and it seems to work perfectly. It also has a unique character like most 4-track cassette machines, so I really like this machine. It's really cool. It's kind of heavy to keep holding it up in this shot, so I'm going to close out the video by saying thanks for watching. Make sure to check the links in the video description, as well as liking this video and subscribing to the Twin Creek Audio YouTube channel if you have not done so already. I hope each and every one of you out there has an excellent day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond. Whatever it is you're having, have a good one. Thanks so much for watching.